Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Joe Mullen. I'm joined here at the desk by Joshua Jack Leesman and Rivington Bisland III as we head into the second half of day one here in Singapore. So let's get straight to it. Checking out the starting lineups here on the blue side from the North American LCS. It is Cloud9 with Balls in the top lane, Meteos in the jungle, High in the mid lane, Sneaky the AD carry, and Lemon Nation on support.
And ready themselves on the red side is actually Alliance from the European LCS. Wicked in the top lane, Shook in the jungle, Frog in the mid, AD carry is Tabs, and support is Nif.
And this is going to be one amazing matchup. Everybody has been waiting for a lot of these matches, but I'm sure NA and EU has been waiting to see this one again.
Yeah, this entire day I've seen Alliance kind of all huddled up at a table because they did so much of their pre-prep just working on general strategy, and today, since this is their only match, they were preparing pick ban strategies for Cloud9. I only caught the Alliance coach in the hallway. He says, we've drafted up about 15 different scenarios because this pick ban phase could go in so many different directions. I just can't wait to see what happens.
And this is going to be the big test for everyone, I think, because there's a lot of arguments whether Cloud9 is the team that goes through in the group stage or whether Alliance is the team that does it. We're going to find out who's got the early edge here as we jump into Champion Select between Cloud9 and Alliance. First bans out of the gate will be Rise for Cloud9 and a Tristana ban from Alliance.
I gotta say, with all the different possibilities, my predictions for pick and ban right here were wrong. Rise ban and the Trist ban from one side almost necessitates an early Lucian pick or ban on the Cloud9 side. Obviously, the Alistair needs to be banned away from Balls, but I'm really wondering, something that obviously the North American and European teams have been more heavily keyed in on is the Nidalee pick. And I really wonder, because Balls has shown a proficiency for that champion, if Alliance is forced to burn a ban on it.
Yeah, we did see a lot of aggression coming from him and game control, something that's been super consistent from Balls in the top lane. A lot of things people think will be able to put him over Wicked in this game, but we've heard recently from a lot of Alliance members that Wicked is somewhat stepping up in kind of a leader role for the team.
Yeah, and that's an interesting concept almost, because we've seen from Wicked that he has phases where he looks great, phases where he makes some decidedly dodgy decisions, but if he was to peak right now, this is of course the exact right time. After the bans are all out there, we see first pick coming here for Cloud9, taking away Kha'Zix for the jungle.
I love the Kha'Zix pick right here. Doing some scouting onto Shook, I think he has a pocket pick coming into this tournament that you would only see if Lee and Kha'Zix are taken away. He's played 3 times as many solo queue games in Korean solo queue on Rammus than he has on any other jungler. And I actually kind of put it at number 3 on his tier list, so he's probably either going with an Elise or somehow pulling out a Rammus a little bit later in pick ban. I hope to see it.
We'll have to see, definitely changing the dynamic of the team, but Alliance, they like to fight, so Rammus would definitely be right up their alley. Looking to pick an AD carry here, possibly for Tabs, as Alliance waiting, seeing that first pick Kha'Zix. They're definitely taking their time here.
Yeah, Kog'Maw's a big champion if you look at both Sneaky and Tabs here, most played on both sides of the board. So I think with Tristana gone there as well from Alliance's bans, I think this Kog'Maw is almost a sure lock-in, at least coming out for Shook as well. I think the safe option if we're talking about Rammus.
You're right, it's way safer to pick Elise, but honestly, we haven't seen much success from Elise really in the playoffs, and especially at Worlds. Low damage that will be made up with the incredibly high damage of Kog'Maw. And to speak to that Kog'Maw a little bit from Alliance, in the playoffs it was their highest of priority picks, but it's been so long since we saw the European playoffs, I was wondering how much Alliance has changed in their overall valuation of picks, but it definitely seems like Kog'Maw is still up on their tier list.
Let through by Cloud9, well known for their just amazing pick ban phases. Lemon Nation really coming out big in that factor. High to control the game as the shot caller. And Lemon looks like he's taking his times here to say, what do we grab? Yeah,
you can tell there's a lot of strategy and different scenarios coming up between Cloud9 and Alliance here, because normally in normal NALCS seasons, Cloud9 is snappy in the pick and ban phase. They're almost instantly locking things in. Now they're taking their time, but when they do lock in, they do it together to give Alliance less time to react.
And we heard earlier on Crepo saying, I hope I see Sneaky getting his hands on Lucian. Also, we heard the fact that Wicked said, yeah, Balls plays a great Rumble, but so does Dyrus, and so do all these other top laners that I'm used to playing against. Balls will get that this time around. We'll see what Alliance go with. It's obviously a fair few top lane bans here when you look through the banning phase.
It's all kind of coming together here. By the way, Balls is 14-0 in NALCS play on Rumble. Obviously, this isn't North American LCS play, but as far as the Rumbles we've seen so far at Worlds, it's absolutely come back into the meta, and Balls is as good a Rumble player as any, if not better than the rest of them.
Seen quite a bit of this Kale today. Will it be something that rounds out the composition for Alliance? Definitely would help to protect the Kog'Maw, that's for sure.
I mean, I feel like that's... If Wicked's not willing to go Aurelia here,
and
or if there's
said in that video, I feel confidence with Aurelia against Balls' Rumble if it happened.
It's the logical pick normally
for
Aurelia. Balls is always confident in his ability to play against Aurelia. Otherwise, Cloud9 would have banned it. But they picked a Rumble in blind.
So let's see then. Looking like Wicked will get his hands on Kale. Played 2 games over the summer split and playoffs with that. Both victories for him as well. You may argue, though, that here at Worlds, the level of competition just I was going to say a little bit high, but let's be honest, the level is incredible here. So got to bring out his top game. And if what we've been hearing on the grapevine is true, Wicked seems to be in top form. He'll have to prove that, though.
It seems like it. There's a slight chance that Kale is being used as a flex pick to potentially block high Zed, because Froggen could play Kale in the mid lane if they decide to go Zed, and then Wicked could still go with Aurelia. So they're trying to keep their hand a little bit sealed here for Cloud9's last few picks.
Well, there's the Syndra coming in for high, possibly something in the mid lane, if not the Kale to come out. It's been from the analyst desk to even a few of the games we've seen. These groups are about the mid lane so far, and then it kind of just falls off to the AD carries being able to get the benefit of all of that.
And Cloud9's going with a very long-range composition here. If they're going to pick Janna, which, by the way, Lemon Nation has played 80 games on in Korean solo queue, also way back in latter seasons like Season 2 and Season 3, it was his main champion. It's probably his best support and has always been his best support, so it's a really good pick for Cloud9. Not just him picking it up off the bat, but now with the Syndra, it allows High to initiate without committing, because Janna's all about disengaging, so it's a very safe... there's a lot of synergy in this entire Cloud9 team comp.
And a great time for your favorite champion to come back into favor and be so powerful as Janna is right now. Let's see them for Alliance, whether that Kale will end up in the hands of Wicked. And what Froggen is going to then possibly play. Looks like he will be busting out Xerath. Now, if you look down Froggen's most played champions, there are a hell of a lot of them. In fact, his top played champion, funnily enough, is Xerath, but he's only played it 6 times over the course of summer and playoffs.
And I remember one of those playoff games, we saw the damage dealt to champions afterwards, and it was Froggen with like 60% of his team's damage in one game. That's what you do against long-range compositions if the rest of Alliance had already not been built to engage. You just have to get into the range arms race. This is going to be an incredibly long-range game, lots of poke, all about pick potential, and these teams are not very commitful when they go in for fights. It'll be a really fascinating game, but potentially low in kills.
Well, both of the teams now locked in. We can see what they've wanted to round out. Alliance building the team to get to this point at Worlds and try to fight their way to the win. Cloud9 looking to kind of clean up a little bit of a second place finish, they say, at playoffs with even their win to come in at Worlds.
And that's the interesting thing, that people are so split on Cloud9 and Alliance here. Everyone's looking at Najim White Shield and saying, they're through the group, they're #1 at this point. The real battle seems to be between the North American and European teams. We all love NA versus EU, although I am outnumbered on the desk today, so I guess I'm going to have to be cheering for Alliance. But, Jack, who's got the edge, do you think, when we come out into this game?
Right now, I don't think there's an edge to be had. We look at these teams in Cloud9, they were the dominant team in North America. Alliance was the European team to show Cloud9-type dominance. These teams are similar in so many ways.
So, as the teams then prepare to clash on the Rift, we'd like you guys to tell us who you think's going to win this game. Tweet at LOL Esports using the hashtag C9win or hashtag ALLwin, and we'll see which squad has the majority vote behind them as we head on to the Rift. And really anyone's game at this point, and that's the beauty, that these teams have practiced so hard after a long season coming into Worlds. Most of the time you see new little tricks and kind of new flares of teams that just wasn't there before.
Well, here we are on to the Rift. It is going to be Cloud9 versus Alliance. We see both teams have gone through pick and ban phase quite slow, not just picking what they wanted, but adapting to everything that was coming down the line. You see Wicked on that Kale now versus Balls on Rumble. See what consistency can come out of that lane. Doesn't look like we're going to get any lane swaps here, so the 2v2 is wanted by both teams from what it looks like. This is going to be a fantastic mid lane as well.
Early points for Froggen there.
Yep.
If that's anything to go by. A little bit of a battle in that mid lane. And of course, Tabs just going to be taunting Sneaky down this bottom lane. I feel like Tabs, he's a player who can shine and has really shone for Alliance in the past. However, you have to feel that he also kind of lives in the shadow of Froggen somewhat when it comes to,
really does.
You know, when people are looking at the star player for Alliance.
And he'll be that sneak attack carry when everyone's focused on Froggen. It's going to be Tabs who ends up doing the majority of damage in a lot of situations. And I wish we could almost cast this game in slow motion because there's so much to talk about between these two teams, from their history to even just the straight-up interactions in these team compositions.
Already quite a bit of aggression interactions happening right away here, and we can see that Cloud9 is not afraid to get into the face of Alliance and start things off. Talking about Tabs a bit, also looking at Sneaky, definitely a change of play style for him throughout the seasons. He used to sit back, used to farm. Now himself is probably one of the carries of the team when it comes to it.
And something that Cloud9 did heavily during the North American playoffs was using Sneaky as a solo laner, and then using Balls as a 2v2 laner with Lemon Nation as his support. It didn't work out amazingly, but what it would do is it would give Sneaky a level advantage and almost always guarantee that Cloud9 had a stronger AD carry. However, that would put Balls fairly heavily behind on champions like Maokai. It often went to bite them on multiple occasions. This time, though, with Rumble, who has a much more powerful base damage spell at level 6, the lane swap makes a bit more sense here. While it's not a 1v1 lane because they're swapped on the other side, I still like the idea of this lane swap from Cloud9.
And Cloud9 really pushing this lane swap as well, with Sneaky and Lemon Nation already doing good chunks of damage onto that top outer turret. The junglers sticking with their top laners on their initial paths here for the start of this game, as both mid laners have now also hit level 2. So we'll have to keep a bit of an eye on that one and see who's winning out these early trades. As you see there, just a simple trade of damage from both sides.
We've heard a lot of this talk, a lot of the community saying Froggen the real deal when he was practicing, when they were playing. He can show up.
It's not just the community, it's every team that they've been scrimming against during their boot camps. Obviously, most teams decided to boot camp in Korea because there was nowhere else to go. If every team's going to go there, you have to end up going to Korea for your practice. And yeah, Froggen had spectacular results in scrims. Cloud9 as well has actually been practicing well. Everyone's talked about how much High has stepped up, even Cloud9 teammates. You could tell he was really a little bit extra motivated after his poor showing in the NA playoffs, spamming NA or spamming the Korean solo queue and making it to challengers so quickly.
And while I was talking about Tabs earlier on and the fact that he may be a little bit overshadowed by Froggen, I feel like Sneaky's got the perfect nickname because he doesn't get talked about all that much. But if you look at statistics, both over the summer season and playoffs, he did over 1/3 of the team's total damage over all the games. So this is a guy who stays quiet during it, but when he gets to those team fights, he's going to absolutely destroy him. We can see this turret is definitely feeling the wrath of this lane swap so far. Alliance not pushing as hard down on the bottom side. They see, however, that there are 4 men up top and they're going to start dragging.
We should definitely talk about the varying strategies in this 2v0. Right now, what's happening is Cloud9 is doing a bit of a fast push, and Alliance is very much doing a freeze. So they're sacrificing potential global gold there for the farm on Kog'Maw. They're making that up with the Dragon. So this is actually going to be a temporary bonus for Alliance because they're getting the free farm from Kog'Maw and trading the Dragon Gold for the turret gold, but they will lose out on map pressure overall because now Sneaky and Lemon Nation get to become a presence elsewhere, whereas Tabs is still managing this freeze in the bottom lane.
We saw how fast Lemon left the lane. He actually didn't get that turret gold that we only see a Sneaky get. So he's going to get down here to the bottom lane and try to get wards out immediately to make sure that's a safe lane for Sneaky to continue to farm. 35 to 30, even though they were not matched up. Looks like Tabs is going to keep himself safe on this freeze. We'll see what happens when they match up here.
This only first recall there for Sneaky. He's going to be coming back into lane with the pickaxe. So expect Tabs to be headed off home in just a little while, just to make sure that he kind of keeps level when it comes to items and they don't get into any trouble in that lane. It is Tabs that's got a nice CS lead there, though, at 43 to 31.
Yeah, Cloud9 was not wanting to allow that freeze to last for long, and because of the pickaxe buy, they're trying to surpass Tabs in item thresholds. Obviously, Tabs wants to go towards the Trinity Force on Kog'Maw. He farmed just enough to get the Phage, which will give him a little bit of an edge. And honestly, Cloud9 and Alliance have pretty different playstyles. We look at Alliance during the regular season, they're typically very content to just play a longer laning phase because they know that they're going to have the team fight ability and the reliability of Froggen during these team fights. So this game is actually, as funny as it sounds, going by both teams' books. Alliance is playing the farm game, and Cloud9 is trying to accelerate it just a little bit.
See Meteo still in his jungle. Just kind of backed off of the, if all of my lanes are winning, I'm going to be counter jungling. A lot more safer fights with the team from now on. We'll see what happens when these dragon fights come up. Himself, 24-17, so definitely benefiting from staying in the jungle by himself. Balls in the top lane, able to keep it quite safe here against Wicked so far. 4-3 on that one.
Yeah, and I think you always have to be careful against Shook because he is one of those carry type jungler, so if you end up a little bit too low inside of his jungle and he finds you, he will try and kill you, and from that, usually you're going to be in trouble against this Alliance team. We do see that Tabs has now got back into lane, did pick up the Phage, and Cloud9 already pushing this one up quite heavily, and that has brought Sneaky's Siesto all right back level with that off Tab. So 80 carries at this point, all very much even. Top lane being a quiet affair. Ball slightly ahead. I say slightly ahead. It's 6-7 CS in the lead. Has the level advantage over Wicked there as well. But so far the junglers not really visiting that top side.
I wonder if we will get much pressure up here in the beginning. You can see a little pocket play here from Meteos on the mid lane, but he will be able to clear out nicely on this pink ward. Beautiful move by Hyde to give him safety on this as well, without any pressure from Shook. They may know that they're free and clear to produce something after this.
I feel like based on the team comps as well, it is on Cloud9 to be a bit of the playmaking force here. If they let Kog'Maw, Xerath, Kayle go late, I think it will slightly outscale what Cloud9 has put together. So it will be about this mid game that we are approaching now. The early game was kind of bypassed a little bit by the sheer nature of the lane swaps. But now, I think when the next dragon respawns, we will start seeing some action.
They don't actually decide to take that last small golem for the blue buff, so that's going to be a little bit rough for Froggen as he tries to come around for maybe dragon fights if he wants that. Shook now going to try to get his way with it, but it will be seen by Meteos this time.
This
Not
is
going to get much out of it.
They could.
Oh, nope. So he's going to grab it. Ball's a little slow on that come down as well. Level 6 is here coming from the top lane. It's actually level 5 from Wicked. I don't know how far he can really venture into this position. Pushed out, but they grab the blue.
And they also grabbed a lot of Cloud9 attention. Yes, the flash was burned, but that little bit of lane pressure was temporarily lost there. I definitely feel like Cloud9 is just trying to tool up for this dragon fight in 2 minutes. You can see there's a 1 Doran's Ring advantage in the mid lane for High. You can see that flash could very well come in handy, especially if it comes down to a bit of a smite fight.
So bottom lane, back to that one as we see level 6 has been landed here for Sneaky. Tabs himself also has his ultimate, so put a bit more pressure down at a longer range with that ultimate now in full force. The support's yet to get there, and if they can hit level 6 before that dragon comes up, which you'd be expecting to see, of course, level 5 at this point, that's going to come big into play when the dragon's there.
And I do have to talk about Lemon Nation's item here. He's done a very early upgrade into a Frost Fang, which isn't necessarily what we've been seeing from Janna's in the World Championship. They either go for an early Boots of Mobility or they go for an early Sightstone. The fact that he's went for this Frost Fang is very aggressive in a sense. He gets a small amount of extra ability power, he gets a little bit more gold generation, and he's almost playing for a stronger mid game, but there will be a lapse in either vision control from Boots of Mobility wards or from Sightstone wards, because he's literally just working off of his trinket right now.
You see Sneaky trying to keep strength in lane as well. He has mana potions to go along with this. That trade we saw from Tabs was noticing Sneaky low on mana. They weren't able to get much out of it, so now backing, they'll be coming back, now 89 to 85 CS. We'll see what else he puts in his inventory. Just 10 minutes on the clock, and both teams seem a little jittery, really, to make the first move here.
And this is kind of what I expect as well for, you know, a first game of a World Championship, on top of the fact that it is EU versus NA and the extra pressure that comes in with that one. So kind of expected that we would see a slightly more passive start to this Alliance versus Cloud9 matchup, but that should be changing here, I feel, soon. 10 seconds until the dragon comes up. We already see both High and Meteos there moving down to get some wards in around the dragon area.
And even though they're playing testy in the early game, the team fights are going to be testy. There's very few melee champions in this game. Kha'Zix and Rumble and Elite, and Elise is even half ranged, right? Like they hardly even count as melee champions because they have so many long-ranged abilities. if Cloud9 can just walk down and get this one, that is a huge failure on Alliance's part.
Alliance, all their wards are on the top side of the jungle. One just died. That's where their pink is focused. Really was not ready for this, and grabbed by Cloud9 nicely.
I can see what is going through Alliance's mind, because it's very much how they play. It just kind of caught me off guard. They're against a Rumble, Janna, level 6, pop those ults together, the healing from the Janna ult, the damage from the Equalizer. It's a fight Alliance feels like they could do without. Instead of giving up 3 kills in a dragon, they give up just the dragon, and they let themselves farm. It's an understandable move, but it does pull Cloud9 into a slight edge.
Not much of one, though. 1,000, not even at this point, 11.5 minutes into that matchup. We're going to see Wicked actually going back. He's been sat on that Doran's ring and the boots for a long, long time. Will actually come back with the Stinger there, so going to have a bit more pressure on that top side. The mid laners both, of course, working up towards that Athene's Unholy Grail. Nothing really out of the ordinary there. And bottom lane, Sneaky got now that BF sword added on top of his pickaxe. The Sheen was the second item, 4 taps.
Good pressure coming out from Cloud9 everywhere. We're looking at kind of 10-minute mark CS. Really only advantage of High in the mid lane. It's not going to affect the game just too much. This is such an even all game across the board. Yeah. A lot of people expected that.
So, later in the North American LCS season, as High uses all of his mana to harass down Froggen, later in the LCS season, Cloud9 actually developed a very slow play style. They would almost never lose when they're ahead in gold at 20 minutes. Actually, the only game in the entire split, including playoffs, where they had a greater than 100 gold advantage at 20 minutes and lost was one of their best of 5 games against TSM in the playoffs. Outside of that, they would secure victories. So this slight edge is something Cloud9 is really comfortable playing with.
Shook actually taking a good chunk of damage there, but nothing really to finish off. 12 minutes 40 into this one, still no first blood coming down. There's a 700 gold lead though for Cloud9 as Wicked here going to be forced actually to use an early intervention. Balls had put down that Equalizer, and Wicked feeling maybe a little pressure, playing it very, very safe on that front, and why not? He's got the CS lead at this point.
Yeah, I think Wicked won that trade easily. He traded ultimates, beat out all the damage. One thing I will say though is outside of that, Wicked has had limited to no lane pressure. Balls walked all the way down, took the dragon, walked all the way back up, didn't even have to use his teleport, and was only down 10 CS. Wicked, as Kale, needs to be able to push the wave a little bit harder than that.
And that was something I was going to mention as well, because put the factor in of being on Rumble there, an inconsistent way to farm, and he can still keep that CS within that 10 CS range. See what he can do here at the turret, the rest of the map. Looks like they're trying to put a little bit of focus actually on High in the mid lane. Shook's getting himself deep within the jungle, trying to provide that vision for opportunities later. Also, Meteos to the bottom lane. Looks like they're going to be evil. No, not to take that.
These teams have the most warped sense of map control right now. You can see where High in the mid lane was cheating down towards his rates because they knew they had absolutely no control in the blue side of their jungle where Shook had presence. Likewise, that's where Meteos was providing his map control as well. Look at the deep wards into Alliance's blue side of the jungle as well. They're almost trading blue buffs in a sense. Cloud9's blue buff is Alliance's and vice versa.
Oh, there's a Howling Gale coming across. Meteos is actually still waiting around here inside of that Tribush, but I believe Alliance just spotted him walking out there. Certainly will now as he goes over the ward towards that Alliance blue buff. There is Shook, gonna be scanning out, but nothing actually inside of that brush itself. This will be interesting now. Shook starts off the blue. See that Cloud9 actually sending a couple of men up from this one, and it's scaring Alliance away somewhat. High's even taken offensive position on the backside of the pitch.
This could be our first fight if Alliance wants to tango. Obviously, Cloud9's blue is stolen, so they want to get theirs back. There's a pink ward they have to deal with, and they have to use the teleport as a threat. But the wonder of having Cinder on their team, they can just do this, trade blue buffs.
Thank you very much, says High. Like you said, traded right over. Froggen working his vision to make sure he continues to stay safe and just getting a few pop shots onto High here, because nothing they're really trying to get into these fights. So it's only the tap, or it's only the love taps that they're getting in. Athene's on both sides for that mid lane. Should come up on 15 minutes, another minute and a half on Dragon. That vision's already in favor of Cloud9. As we've seen, their invades only be team invades so far.
If there was one word I had to use to describe this game to this point, I would say calculated. More so than anything else, these teams are only willing to take sure things, and wherever they have the lapse of vision control, they are very willing to concede which is much unlike the very first game of the day we saw between OMG and LMQ, where they were making gut decisions based on instinct and just educated guesses, basically, to go and make things happen. This game does not have educated guesses. It only has educated actions. If they have wards, they'll go. If they do not have wards, they give it up. And that's why we're 0-0, 16 minutes into the game.
Yeah, it looks like we'll be seeing 200 CS on those mid laners before any kills start to come down. As Froggen once again just waiting off to the side there. We'll get a shot off onto high, but not doing masses of damage either at this point. 30 seconds though until the Dragon comes back up as Wicked once again finally getting some damage onto that tower and making sure that Balls takes a bit of damage as he tries to come in to defend that one. Wicked may very well on this push get that one. However, TP is available for Balls should he wish to just go straight back up to that lane. But 5 seconds to Dragon. Do you want to go to that top lane with a TP when it's only got a slither of health? Probably not.
Yeah, it does look like he's walking up that way, though. He will be willing to teleport down if the Dragon fight becomes a thing. But that would require Alliance to challenge, something they haven't been willing to do, especially without vision control, especially since they've been prioritizing Wicked's side of the map, right? The blue buff that Wicked is nearest have been where Cloud9 have been abandoning. So they kind of gave up that turret over the course of 5 minutes because Balls was playing blind, therefore not making any aggressive moves. Now they try to push a second turret.
Trying to see if they can make anything happen. Froggen coming over with the team. Calculating and directing what should be going down. Balls throwing down the ultimate to deter everyone off as they're going to have 3 in the mid. Cloud9 says, or 3 in the top. Cloud9 says, let's push mid.
And this is 3 men there as well, including the AD carry, so it's going to be a lot of damage onto this turret. Look at Lemon Nation's position, really like that. He's just waiting off to the side to see who comes across from Alliance and doing what Janna does best. They're going to throw the tidal wave out, forces the flash. Actually, shotgun very deep. Intervention going to be used. He'll come right back down where he started as the Cully comes through. Ultimate used by High, and that's finally the first blood almost 18 minutes into the game for Cloud9.
One step too far there for Shook, flashing in for a chancy cocoon. Not the right call. Now Cloud9 finally takes the offensive.
Keeping themselves strong in the mid lane. All 5 now pressuring down. They got a good siege wave as well. Low mana on Froggen, so he can't really stop the siege as much as he would like. But the rest of the team is able to bolster up and supplement for him having not having mana. Moves by Cloud9 kind of put Alliance on their heels, but this is far from over.
Yeah, I think that team fight is actually going to be indicative of many future team fights we see in here. The team that commits puts themselves in excessive danger because there's not exactly like any of these teams or pylon teams. They're poke teams. They have very long range, and they're able to punish somebody from overcommitting very hard.
And it's such a tell, right? When you see a gigantic wave flowing at you for 3.5 seconds that they're gonna keep going.
Meteos.
Might have been the bad part. He is just out of vision. Gonna catch one over the wall.
Pretty sure they don't know he's there, though.
He's just going to hop over the other side? No? Well, even so, they can push down that turret while Meteos is gone. They got to try and make a quick run down here to defend their buildings.
Well, that turret should be taken down quickly here. Actually, Lemon Nation is going to move in. Look at this. Froggen will spot High. Going to get the stun. Gets the slow on to him. Has he got the damage to finish up? Stun comes back from High, and that should change this one around as Meteos having to jump away as well. Meanwhile, High is backed away onto the red buff. There's ultimate coming out. And the Froggen land 2 out of the 3, and that will be a kill back for the mid lane.
There's no way that High expected to have a ward right there from Alliance. Great vision control there, leading to Alliance's first kill of game, but they are still down 2,500 gold. They'll get a turn out of this and close the gap.
So Froggen with the Eagle Eye helping to equalize kills. At 20 minutes in, they start dropping turrets. At this time, they can continue to move off of those. It's not to back here. Sneaky trying to do what he can to guard this one off. We'll see how much Lemon Nation's roam and wards can really keep them from getting pushed in too much.
So let's have a look then at the overall picture. We've hit that 20-minute mark. Only 2 kills on the board, 1 apiece for the mid laners. If we look at the mid laners, the Void Staff has now been picked up by High. It was a needlessly large rod that Froggen picked up on his last recall after securing that kill. And that leaves us with a 2,000 gold difference in favor of Cloud9, up 1 turret. And of course, had the last 2 dragons that Alliance have just given away, not feeling safe to challenge.
And which, by the way, that 2,000 gold lead would be the largest lead that Cloud9 ever lost in 20 minutes in a game during the entire North American season. And it just happened that one time. However, what is Shook building? Obviously, he's going for Frozen Heart. Maybe, because he just decided to build a health crystal. They're against Rumble Syndra.
Yeah.
Where is his Aegis? Where is his Locket of the Iron Solari? That's where his gold should be going. I know Sneaky is going to become a strong force, but they're against a double AP composition. That item build just seems really scattered.
I'm sure Crumbs is dying a little inside from seeing that. He has been promoting it all week, every group stage so far on the analyst desk. And you're right, chat. It definitely is an odd build for now. See if it pays off later. Could be a tough one on the double AP. Right now we see already that Leandri's finished up, as well as the Void Staff coming in for high, so he is going to be putting out some big damage on that single target. Right now Cloud9 again gathering in the mid lane. Look, they do actually have to teleport up right now, so if they need to make a move on this next turret, they can do so.
Just sent balls to clear out on that top side, so we'll be trying to push back Wicked, who's got that Nash's Tooth in there as Hang going to step forward. Not quite locking up Froggen as he would have wished. Probably for the best, really. There are another 3 Alliance members waiting for that one. They're currently doing that red buff. Even Wicked has now walked across to join the rest of the team, and still a little bit off here in terms of Dragon, which honestly you have to feel that Cloud9 have pretty much got that one sewed up at this stage after taking those last 2 without any challenge whatsoever from Alliance. And that was always the strong point, I feel, of Alliance, that they don't fight when it's not worth it. But that said, at some point you've got to fight, because you can't just afford to give 4, 5, 6 dragons away.
Except Alliance always seems to find the right moment. They'll wait and wait and wait and wait longer than most teams would be willing, and then they will turn it around at the proper moment. As funny as this game is, it seems like both teams are still in their comfort zone. No one's been pushed outside of it thus far. Alliance still has the Kayle, Kog'Maw, Xerath, and they're still happy with their ability to push back, whereas Cloud9 played pretty slow during the second half of the split and are comfortable playing with this small lead. We still haven't seen the deciding moments of this game yet.
But do we see that wait, the patience of Cloud9 pay off for Alliance? The tabs is only going to get bigger. It's only going to be a stronger Froggen on the other side. Will they have to be forced to make moves?
Wicked's going to be putting up pretty big numbers on Kayle. I'm actually not sure if they are forced as of yet. I think if they get pushed back to their inhibitor turrets, or lose an inhibitor, or if Cloud9 starts pressuring Baron excessively well, then Alliance would be forced into a move. But as of now, Alliance is very content conceding dragons and trying to take turrets based on the lack of map pressure, which they're doing right now.
Trade then on the Dragon. Third one of the game goes over to Cloud9. Also with the third turret is Wicked here, going to get stunned up. No follow through, couldn't quite get in range there to do the damage. However, they forced Alliance out of position here. Cloud9 looking to chase. I thought that mid lane may be an option for them. They've just cleared out the wave there, so at least they hold position here over that middle side. You see Alliance scrambling to get back.
Yeah, it's 2 teams with very similar goals. They both have strong disengage and strong long-range damage abilities. Cloud9 is the one, or the team, with the stronger mid-game, which is why they're able to push Alliance around, but they don't necessarily have the tools to dive on really, really well unless they have a gargantuan lead, which they're trying to put together, to be fair.
Striking down the heart here of Alliance's mid lane. Wicked taking quite a bit of damage. Again, the tidal wave letting them know the disengage is there. Shots out of tabs, draws out the intervention. Doesn't look like there's going to be too much on this. Such cautious team fights coming from both these teams. Cloud9 has to be careful. Very low on mana as they just kind of hang out now.
Trying really to bust through there, but wave clear coming out. There's the stun from I. Equalizer goes down as well, but it's just going to be forcing them away. Ball flashes in, not able to get the final hits to get killed. Oh, Paul's almost going down there to Froggen's ultimate, but I think that was the aim from Cloud9. Force them back off the turret and just take that inner tower.
Wards coming out for Cloud9 now. Pinks all over, or rather Alliance. They do not want any more funny stuff in their jungle. We'll see where they put down the 4, almost 5 they have now if tabs didn't have a full inventory. They're really trying to stop this pressure Cloud9's putting on.
Yeah, the pink wards are a necessity so they know where Cloud9 will be going next, so they can try and beat them to the wave clear. They fell behind a little bit on wave clear there, took a little bit too much harass, and then were pushed back and couldn't end up defending their turret. Since neither of these teams have strong initiation, and both of them have many vehicles to run away with, you know, Jan obviously giving the whole team speed, Nami being able to speed people up, everyone being long range, the one thing in this game that can't run away is turrets. So therefore, we've seen 2 player kills and 7 turret kills. It's not too surprising considering the team compositions and how calculated these teams like to play.
All about that strategy, talking about it. They're playing so safe. They just keep away from each other and take what they can. Right now, it's put up a 3,000 gold lead and a little bit on the side for Cloud9. Only been utilized to drop those objectives. All the dragons are in their favor, and it's something teams, you know, you kind of take a look at. How many dragons can you actually just let go in a game and still come back? It's an interesting statistic.
And I don't think they actually meant for Shook to be getting that blue buff there. I think that was thoroughly meant for Froggen, but whatever. I'm sure he'll survive that one. Actually got himself a blue elixir here as well.
Shook is still all over the place with his items. He's going for a Spirit of the Ancient Golem at this point, which means he missed out on a huge amount of early game gold generation. He's still miles away from either finishing his Frozen Heart or even starting the items for an Aegis. And right now, I don't think he's much used to Alliance. He is able to put down wards with the Sightstone, and that's about it, because he can't even take much damage with that thing.
And steal blue buffs, apparently.
Yeah,
did successfully a few moments ago, and you know, a decent gold lead still remains here for Cloud9, but we've got to that kind of more troubling stage of the game where the inner turrets are the ones that have to go down. Froggen also getting more powerful with that death cap in there will make sure that he can decimate the waves before they get even really close to those turrets. We also have Wicked, who's added that Rabadon's death cap on top of his Nash's tooth, so a lot of damage, and we've seen time and time again what a later game Kale is going to do.
And Wicked's done a very good job farming these side lanes while Alliance is holding up the defensive. This has been 27 minutes of pretty successful turtling for Alliance. They've been giving up the dragons, but they've taken enough turrets on the backside that they're holding well. Obviously, that's a substantial amount of poke, though.
Very nice calling coming out of Sneaky. Still has the power, that Infinity Edge, along with the Ghost Blade finish for him. See Cloud9 playing a little bit more aggressive here. Definitely hear that their scrims don't go so well. A lot of their practices end in failure, so this could be another reason they're taking this one slow to the stage.
This is so dangerous. At the moment, Alliance is thinking that they have enough long-range check that they don't actually have to check Baron. They didn't have the ward control on Baron, but Cloud9 thought that either the Xerath or the Kog'Maw, monstrous ranged abilities, would be able to catch them on the Baron, and they weren't willing to take that risk. However, it's not like vision control has been won back by Alliance, and they may just try repeating this until they effectively call Alliance's bluff and just do Baron.
Looking to get Wicked involved on that bottom lane. He's recalling inside of a brush with a ward inside of it, so Cloud9 know exactly what Wicked's plan here is. They dodge away from that Kog'Maw ulti, and we'll have to be careful as Meteos and Elimination try to hold them away from the Baron area. There's the jump in though, going on to Tabs, who gets blown down to half. There is a tidal wave coming through, should be enough to keep them away. The Cully coming through the back though from Sneaky, and Alliance able to back off, but Cloud9 lost no health there.
I don't know if Cloud9 actually cares about killing them right now. They're just trying to dissuade them from checking Baron and be able to punish them if they get close. I would not be surprised if now is the time they do Baron.
A bit of the mind games drawing Alliance into a dangerous position to make Cloud9 in the safer spot. Looks like they're going to be able to grab Baron nicely here. Lemon,
great
bubble close.
kill.
Froggen on the outside. Intervention goes down on him. He does get a good flash over the wall. Meteos' jump is not going to slow anything. They do take down Froggen, but the rest of the team knows that they need to get back and they need to guard.
How to crack the Alliance turtle. Chapter 1 by Cloud9. It's taken them 29 minutes, obviously, to make it to this point. They are really using Lemon Nation's heal more so than I've seen from other teams here. They're not needing it for the disengage. They're using it to guarantee their objectives. It is a massive Monsoon heal here at rank 2.
And now they're looking for the inhibitor turret as they face up on that one. That minion wave is there, and without Froggen, they lose the massive wave clear that they had in their team. This is going to be the Inhib going down. Nif almost being finished off there by Balls, and that's the first inhibitor of the game going over to Cloud9.
And Riv, you asked earlier when Alliance was going to have to make a move. It's now, because they have lost enough small things. Obviously, it's only 2 kills. It's only a 6,000 gold lead, but it's going to balloon to about 8 here with the Baron buff, with the large waves Cloud9 is going to be able to pick up, and with the items they're going to be able to acquire. At this point, Alliance really has to make a move.
And it's only going to be harder. We were talking about before. Well, let's check this replay one more time.
Yeah, it was just a nice catch right there. Froggen obviously had to go in, but their jungler had went back to base. So obviously they did not fear the Smite War, and because of the Monsoon heal, which was about 600 points of healing just from Janna alone, they were not afraid of the incidental harassment they took inside the Baron pit.
And we saw Shook, I was just going to talk about him coming in late. He's dug himself so far into this build, he almost can't bring Alliance what they need to start making those moves.
He's got a lot of everything, but not really much of anything, you know?
That's a good way to put it.
Just really off the mark, to be honest, when it comes to that. And we'll see maybe later on, and if we get a chance to talk to you, what exactly the idea was with this one. And, you know, they've got decent protection in the form of Wicked, but to be honest, they can just wait this one out, and they're still able to get the targets after it. So Cloud9, 8,000 gold up. 5-3 in turrets. Yes, it's only 2-1, but that doesn't really matter at this stage with the lead that Cloud9 have picked.
Yeah, they definitely look like it. Honestly, to talk a little bit more about Shook right here, there's a reason that Lee Sin was banned and Kha'Zix was picked fairly early from Cloud9, and also why I thought maybe Shook would end up defaulting to Rammus as his next pick, because I did not think his Elise would find much success. He is so far behind in gold. There's a 9,300 gold on Meteos and 6,700 gold onto Shook. As far as individual disadvantages, that is a greater disadvantage than any other role matchup in this entire match. And it shows by the fact that the only completed item he has to like the maximum tier is his Mercury Treads. Everything else is a component right now.
And unfortunate for Alliance, Negatron Cloaks being bought after that Baron, after that huge just advantage they've gained, along with the Locket being built on Elimination now. So even more of that magic resistance to shut down the double AP coming from Alliance's team here. Now pressure down into the bottom turret as the map is objective free. They can pretty much do whatever they want here.
They've got to be careful as well, Alliance. Yes, they can need to step up to get rid of those waves, but if High lands a stun onto any of those juicy targets, they're just going to push straight through. They managed to force Alliance here off of that inner tower, and there's not really much left on the map here for Alliance. Of course, that middle inhibitor went down a little bit earlier on, and Cloud9 not stopping. They're going to get good damage once again onto this second inhib tower.
At this point, Alliance needs to kind of hope Cloud9 gets a little too aggressive with the dive, because Alliance didn't build initiation into their team. They're all about wave clear and fortressing basically inside their base, but with one down inhibitor, the front door is open, and it's kind of hard to barricade it back up.
Lots of Meteos.
Almost a great cocoon coming out onto Meteos there. Froggen pretty low on mana still at the back of the fight. The tidal wave is just to disengage. Nobody really moving forward except for Wicked and Shook. Not really the damage providers right now. Wicked can't do much without the team.
Whoa.
They just shred down tabs there. High's going to stay alive. A great shield and a heal coming out from his AD carry of Sneaky. They're going to take down another inhibitor, and they are just running amok in the base.
Wicked just wasn't able to get the intervention on. I will need to see that again to see if he was out of range or just distracted with something else, but High saw the opportunity, and he just went for it with authority. That's the commit type of play you see from High when he's at his best.
And that's what I was saying just moments before, that if you get one step too close, and especially if that person's the AD carry, you're just going to commit and you're going down 100-0, and, well, Cloud9 walking all over Alliance here. It's over 10,000 now, the lead that they have. They've all just gone back to shop up once again, and you can see the items coming. It makes it even harder for Alliance to break through. Let's look at that one again. Look at Tabs' HP and the stun coming in from High.
And look where Wicked is. He obviously got the stun, but Wicked goes to the left side, so he was not able to basically follow the Syndra. That's what they need from the Kayle, is to at least stay somewhat near his teammates that are going to get Syndra ulted, because Cloud9 as a team actually does not have that much AoE outside of the Equalizer, which is a fairly thin AoE. So Wicked just has to do better in staying close to his allies so he can stop the Syndra ultimate from being fatal.
Trying to keep that focus and trying to keep putting items in their inventory, but pink wards are consistently needing to be bought by Alliance and really shunting their items.
Obviously, it is easier to buy items when you have more gold. But with that being said, Cloud9 has outbuilt Alliance like crazy. Let's just see this fight.
Froggen taking quite a bit of damage. Intervention's in range this time. The tidal wave, a good disengage. It looks like C9 may just want to grab the inhibitor as they mentally and physically force Alliance off of this one. Now it gets a bit more physical. And it looks like the equalizer goes down, but they're not going to really pursue.
Yeah, with 2 inhibitors down, I think it's just a matter of cycling the minion waves properly. But just look at the inventories. There is a Locket of the Iron Solari on Cloud9 side because Alliance has a double, maybe even a triple AP composition if you factor in at least in the magic damage the Cogmod does, whereas there's still not a completed item onto Shook. He's not finding a way to get gold because it's all going to the wave clear champions in Xerath. There's no magic resist being built up on anyone else. Wicked just now being able to get a Negatron cloak. They just were not prioritizing their defenses properly, and it's something that contributes to Cloud9 pushing them around the map.
Once again, this trap going to be set up here. Ball's going to step forward from it. There's only 3 of them there. Shook already going to take a big blast as a teleport from Wicked is going to bring him into the middle of the fight, but we can see that Cloud9 have already backed away from this one. They can slow across the entire jungle range. Now High stepping forward. Can he land the stun? Actually goes almost in between them. In the meantime, they've got super minions in the base.
Yeah, the super minions would end the game as long as they keep Alliance occupied.
High gets bubbled in. Will they be able to get a good fight out of this? Zanya's thrown down in from balls, and it looks like they're actually pushing Alliance away from their base, the place they need to be going. Froggen, only one left right now as the Cathian Surprise won't be taking anybody down, and it's the teleport already in from balls onto the Nexus turrets.
That's going to be it. Those super minions and balls will end it. It's just going to be a few minutes from now. 3 seconds.
Rest of the team going to come in to join them here, but Balls all on his own, going to get rid of their minion wave so that the super minions can help him out in the task of finishing off that Nexus, and it's a simple finish with a 20-second spawn time here on Shook, and whilst not a high-scoring game, Cloud9 really controlling this one out to pick up their first win of Worlds.
They just played better. Straight up, they were smarter. The champion select was well executed. It wasn't the flashiest of wins, but boy, was it a secure win. Cloud9 knew when they would be stronger in this game. They forced around objectives then, and they did what they do best, take a small lead into a victory.
Small lead of dragon after dragon after dragon, sticking with a bit of the lane swap as well to make sure Sneaky could get a nice mid-game spike, as he did, and then they were able to control their lanes very nicely throughout the game.
And it's hard when I think you look at Alliance's side here. I mean, they did what Alliance normally do. They felt like they couldn't fight for the second and the third dragon, despite picking up dragon number 1. Of course, as a counterplay to the push in the top lane from Cloud9, but you can't afford to be giving them away. They didn't really have anything to say in that game. It was almost just a one-team victory. It was almost as if Alliance weren't there in some places.
I mean, Cloud9 has definitely been known to be a team with fantastic teamwork, and a little bit of it showed there. These were teams that didn't have the capabilities to go in together, so everyone had to be on the same page. At the end of the day, High had much more catch and kill potential than anyone else on Alliance. So when they were dancing around all those objectives, moving between turrets, trying to pivot and change their strategy, it was the Cinder Stuns from High that were able to save the day and win the game.
Quite insane, the styles of play we've seen here. If this were to fall into the group of death, would they be able to stand up to waiting and waiting? Because those guys are just butting heads immediately in game.
And that's the interesting thing, right? Because we do have such a broad range of styles this year that you never quite know which style is going to be more effective against the other, and how teams are really going to change what they have as a style to match up against these other teams. What we do know is that this is a very, I think, quiet win for Cloud9. It's only the first game, of course. They're going to have to play Alliance once again later, plus everyone else in their group twice. So, it's a good, confident, early win and morale boost, I think, for Cloud9. I'm a little bit scared for Alliance, though, and what this does to their whole morale.
Yeah,
absolutely. They know there's plenty of competition in this group. Obviously, they need to be able to take down either Cloud9 or Najin Shield. It's just one game, though. They actually didn't lose by much, because that's the way Alliance plays, and if that didn't teeter past the ability for them to turtle, they would have swung it right back. Still, though, it looks kind of bad when they only get 2 kills.
Well, Cloud9 opening Worlds 2014 with a victory. And for more on that last match, we're going to head back to the guys at the analyst desk.